Welcome everybody to Hotline to Heaven, where we digest hard questions with complex answers. I'm your host, Christina Joy. And today's question comes to us from Sandra Watley, and here's her hard question.
How can the God of the Old Testament be the same God of love that Jesus describes, given that he ordered the genocide of the tribes of Canaan, including the killing of their innocent children? Why didn't God instead have the Israelites adopt the babies of the Canaanites so that the children could have been absorbed into Israel? Weren't the babies innocent of whatever the Canaanites were doing that made Yahweh so mad at them? How can it be moral to punish innocent children for the sins of their parents?
To help us answer this difficult question today, we have the Lord himself. Hello, Lord. Thank you for agreeing to provide us with some wisdom today.
You are very welcome, Christina. I promised that I would. However, some of your questions might go unanswered because on that side of the veil, your cognitive capacity is limited. When you get here, you will understand far more. But for now, I will answer what you can comprehend, presuming you have ears to hear.
So, what do you think of Sanders' question? Can you explain how it could be moral to kill babies for the sins of their parents?
Let me explain it like this. There were 11,480 youngsters under 5 years old amongst the Amorites. For example, had the children of Israel not gone into the land of Canaan, those children would have been allowed to grow up in the Amorite villages, doing Amorite practices. They would have perpetuated the child sacrifice and occult practices that I abhor. Thus, the overwhelming majority of those kids would not be in heaven right now. As it is, all of them are currently with me, and they have been here for thousands of years.
That certainly changes the perspective.
1 second of pain for 1,000,000,000 years of blissful fulfillment. Let me turn the remainder of the interview over to my child, Tabat. He was one of the actual Amorite babies that was slain during Israel's conquest of Canaan. He's equipped to answer all of your questions.
Hi, Tobat. Welcome to Hotline to Heaven.
Well, hello, everybody on Earth.
So, how old were you when you were killed by the soldiers?
I was 11 months old. However, I have no memory of my actual life on Earth or my death. My earliest memory is being with the Lord here in heaven.
Have you regretted, or do you regret not having the opportunity to live out your life with your birth family?
I consider the Lord to be my birth father. But in answer to your question, no. None of my parents or grandparents made it here to heaven. My 2 sisters, they're here with me, and I'm glad of that. However, I have no desire to give up my life here to be with my parents down there.
You seem pretty sure of that answer.
Indeed, our conscious experience on this side of the veil is substantially greater than yours. Here we have the mental ability to see the whole potential multiverse. What I mean is that we can see all possible life outcomes if circumstances had been different. Every outcome. What happened to me was the best outcome. If I stayed with my clan, I would now be in hell. And I thank the Lord for rescuing me from that particular fate.
But still, he ordered you killed as a baby. A baby wouldn't have been better if he had not instructed the Israelites to adopt you instead. Can you see how that option would have worked out with your super multiverse vision?
Yes, I've seen that outcome. A few of those adoptions would have worked out well. Those outcomes where I was placed with a loving Jewish family. That was a minority of cases, though. Most adoptions turned into disaster. How would you feel if your president ordered you to adopt a Russian baby? Caring for children has always been expensive. Would you love that baby if it was forced on you like your own? Do you think most of your neighbors would love those children like their own? You can't force people to love somebody else's children. Not unless you take away their free will, and God is not willing to do that. part of love is giving people choice. I've seen what would have happened if God had commanded Israel to adopt all of those orphan Canaanite babies. Most of the adoptive children grew up resentful. They ultimately went back to the Canaanite gods. In addition, in some of those scenarios, they influenced many of Israel's citizens to adopt foreign gods themselves. That didn't make God very happy. In a few cases, the kids grew up and joined the armies of other nations that were hostile to Israel, and that shortened the life of the Israeli family. The bottom line is that when we were adopted by the nation of Israel, by the time you get to the 1st century, the nation of Israel is no more. Okay? By the 1st century, Israel needed to be what it was, a theocracy that knew God's moral code, respected that code, and had a significant number of people that was waiting for the Messiah. A nation of faithful people. And that would not have happened had we been assimilated, because of either Israel would cease to be because of violence, because of war, or because they simply would have blended in to the population of Canaan that was there.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. So what you're saying is that had the children been assimilated through adoption into the nation of Israel,
then Israel would not have survived as a nation. And if Israel hadn't survived as a nation until the 1st century, then there would be no Messiah to save all of mankind. It had to happen the way that it did.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Tuvat. We appreciate you for taking time out of what I'm sure is a busy schedule to speak with us.
It was my pleasure, Christina. It gives me great joy to have been of assistance.
And thank you, listeners, for joining us on Hotline to Heaven. Please like and subscribe. And if you like what you heard, feel free to join us again for another episode of Hard Questions with Complex Answers.